Hello there and welcome back. You know, for a channel called Monster Maze, I think it's about high time we take a look at an actual, well, maze. The Lomei Labyrinths found in Breath of the Wild. A total of 3 can be found across Hyrule. Lomei Labyrinth Island, North Lomei Labyrinth, and South Lomei Labyrinth. All of course built by
the Zonai.
Don't say that. What? That? What? That? The Z word. Don't say it. Why not? Because it's ridiculous.
Okay, all kidding aside though, I'm not getting into the lore behind these locations, who built them or why, but rather look at these landmarks on a mechanical level. How they function, how they could be improved, if of course they make a return in the sequel. One fun little tidbit is that the word Lomei is actually an anagram for the word meadow, meaning maze in Japanese. And in the English language, labyrinth is synonymous with maze. So basically these places are called maze. Nice. In actuality, a maze and a labyrinth are not the same thing. Historically, a labyrinth is a complex pattern that only has one way to the center, without any branching, and thus there's no navigational challenge to them. However, the terms are used interchangeably nowadays. When I first stumbled across these massive landmarks, I was pleasantly surprised, since it stands out from the other shrine quests found in the overworld. If you've ever seen The Maze Runner, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The idea of entering a large complex maze, having to map it out and find your way around is an appealing thought. So let's see how these places fare against some scrutiny, shall we? In my first draft of this script, I complained about the aesthetics of these places. It is very bland and repetitive. But then I figured this isn't really a fair assessment. It's a maze after all. The whole point of a maze is to make you feel disoriented. By having each hallway and corridor look the same, it's harder to keep track of where you've been. And in this regard, these places definitely do succeed. I spent more time roaming these hallways than I care to admit. Each labyrinth has its own little quirk. Lomei Labyrinth Island has a large central room with a Guardian Stalker patrolling it, and Guardian Skywatchers guarding the upper perimeter. Additionally, after you obtain the Barbarian Helm from the shrine, you gain access to a basement section filled with decayed Guardians, some of which are still active. There's even one incapacitated Guardian just laying around one of the hallways. North Lomei Labyrinth is flipped 45 degrees on its side and uses malice to halt your progression. It's also filled to the brim with red Lizalfos. And South Lomei Labyrinth also has malice, but there are no enemies to fight inside. Only 2 bokoblins are patrolling the outer wall. Additionally, it also makes use of a lot of closed-off sections that cannot be seen from above. Speaking of which, I think this is one of the aspects that undermines the challenge a fair bit. The fact that you can see the structure of the maze on your map. While I was playing through North Lomei Labyrinth, I abused this quite a bit. When you first enter it, you can immediately see the shrine behind a set of bars. The left path is blocked by a significant amount of malice. First, I explored all of these hallways right here and got nowhere. So I pulled up my map and started connecting the dots. I know the shrine is right here, so I figured there has to be an entrance to this room somewhere around this main area. Since I already explored this section, the entrance has to be somewhere around here, right? So I climbed up to the top of the maze, which, if you have enough stamina to work with, is actually pretty easy to do. And then from the top, I navigated to the location where I was guessing the entrance had to be. Then I used the paraglider to drop down, and lo and behold, there it is. In that regard, South Lomei Labyrinth at least fares a little bit better, since most of its corridors are invisible from satellite view. It doesn't even really look like a maze on the map, as opposed to the other 2. I wondered why not implement the same technique they used with the sandstorms in Gerudo Desert, where your map function is blocked as soon as you enter the area. I guess even the Sheikah Slate can deal with bad reception. Of course, you could still cheat the system by prematurely taking a picture with your phone before you actually enter it, but at least you won't be able to see your current location. A different and perhaps more easy solution would be to just have these structures show up as a solid square or a rectangle on your map. Now, some people might actually enjoy the fact that they have access to a map. As for me, I would have rather used different methods to navigate my way through. For instance, by leaving a breadcrumb trail to know which corridors I already visited. At the very least, your map should fill in as you progress through, in my opinion. As for being able to climb up and cheat the system, just, well, put a roof on it. I get that they wanted you to see this massive structure from afar and be like, wow, what is that? putting a roof on it would take that experience away to a certain extent. In that case, they could have used something else like a force field that activates when you get closer to the maze. If they repeat something like this in Breath of the Wild 2, I think one of the better options would be to have these kinds of challenges underground. One of my favorite things from Twilight Princess are these random caves that you can find in the overworld. They branch out almost like the root of a tree, and some of them actually go on pretty far. Last year I went to an underground salt mine together with my friend Conrad from the Commonwealth realm, and one of the most exciting feelings was the fact that you genuinely feel like you are in an underground network of tunnels that lead every which way. If the lights go out down here, finding your way around would be quite the challenge. Actually, we have seen darkness used as a tool to disorient the player, in Divine Beast Varudania and even better, Typhlo Ruins. By the way, if you haven't seen NBC's video on that topic yet, what are you doing with your life? Go watch it, it's amazing. Walking around in pitch black darkness with nothing but a torch to light your way is a nice touch. Maybe not as dark as in Breath of the Wild, perhaps a little bit more draw distance would be better. Now, in terms of music, I think it's fitting that they reuse the same track from The Lost Woods. After all, the original Japanese name for The Lost Woods in The Legend of Zelda on NES was Maze Woods. Coincidence? Yes, but fitting either way. And now onto the final aspect, and perhaps one of the most important ones at that when it comes to exploration. The rewards in the form of loot and treasure. The most obvious reward is of course the 3 pieces of the Barbarian set, which by itself already makes it worth the effort. However, as you saw with my example of cheating North Lomei Labyrinth, you can totally ignore large parts of the maze itself just to obtain this piece of apparel. It would be nice to also get rewarded for exploring the rest of the area. And in this regard, the labyrinths definitely do not disappoint. North Lomei Labyrinth holds a total of 9 treasure chests, as well as some weapons, shields and some luminous stones that can be found just laying around. Many of the chests hold fabulous rewards, most notably a diamond, Edge of Duality, Knight Shield, gold and silver rupee, and 3 chests with topaz, a sapphire and a ruby. One cool thing I also found was this little campsite in one of the hallways near the outer wall. Apparently someone else already tried to find their way through before you did, and had to set up camp when they got lost. There's a barrel, a pile of wood used to make a campfire, and what seems to be the decayed remains of a tent. He or she even set up this little flag as some sort of a waypoint. Pretty neat. Lomei Labyrinth Island is also quite generous. A total of 8 treasure chests, and again some other stuff just scattered around. The rewards are once again pretty good, and makes it worth the trouble of searching every nook and cranny as opposed to just going straight for the shrine. As mentioned before, after beating the shrine itself, you gain access to an extra basement level which rewards you with a diamond circlet, which is a fantastic reward. South Lomei Labyrinth is a little less generous, but this is understandable, as it is the smallest and least complex. It houses a total of 4 treasure chests, holding a gold and silver rupee, a Gerudo shield and a Gerudo scimitar. There's also a golden claymore and bow sticking out from a pool of malice. It's great to see that these locations reward additional exploration. All in all, in Breath of the Wild, the Lomei Labyrinths granted a nice change of pace when it came to the shrine quests. Most of these quests were tied to riddles. The labyrinth stood out, together with Typhlo Ruins and the survival trial on Eventide. I have no idea how to pronounce the name of that place. Other than that, there isn't much to say about the Lomei Labyrinths, except that they were cool. Kinda. Some have suggested that perhaps we will revisit them, or are given a new purpose in Breath of the Wild 2, which, yeah, I guess that could be a possibility. However, they would have to add something new to them, like a new section on the ground perhaps. Thanks a lot for watching. I hope the hours of me mindlessly wandering these hallways brought you some entertainment. As a tease for the next subject, we will be looking further into the aspect of darkness. However, this time it's not gonna be a Zelda game, but rather a series that I also hold very dear to me. If you came to this channel for the Zelda content, fear not. I will still make comparisons between next week's subject and the Zelda series. And who knows, if you haven't played any of the games in this series, you might even be swayed to pick one up sometime. And of course, more Zelda stuff will be on the way after this one. As always, if you like my content, consider subscribing, hitting the bell and all that good jazz. Or maybe spread the video around a little bit if you feel like it. I don't know. This is Don signing off, and have a good one. North Lomei Labyrinth. God damn.